Glitch Productions' newest show, GAMEOVERSE, finally dropped today, and honestly, I was very pleasantly surprised. I was kind of bored with how the trailer portrayed the show, but actually getting to watch the pilot today has really changed my mind. So please, allow me to explain what I think makes this pilot one of Glitch's best pilots so far, in my humble opinion, because I know some might disagree. But anyway, to give a brief rundown of the lore of GAMEOVERSE, it starts off with a dream flashback sequence where Kit, one of the main characters, recalls the day in which her game world was destroyed. Everyone in this arcade universe called the Farcade has a game planet that they reside on, and each game, usually, but presumably not always, has a villain and a hero. If the hero defeats the villain, the win condition is made true, and when that happens, the game is destroyed, which is why Kit and her entourage have to help the villain of each game to make sure the hero can't defeat them so the game doesn't get deleted. Anyway, Kit wakes up from the dream, and they then come across Syntax, who's the main antagonist of this world, the Farcade world, not this specific game world. It's kind of confusing at first. But yeah, this guy's name is Syntax, and he's trying to destroy the planet so they can siphon a material from them called float, which Syntax and his crew want to then use for the unspecified goal of reshaping the world the way that they want it. They cause Kit to crash land on the planet, which separates her and Gobbles from Caboodle. Kit comes across Flappers, who she doesn't realize is the hero of the game, and Caboodle comes across the villain, Snappers. Misinformation and Fold, who are kind of like a Team Rocket type of thing working alongside Syntax, managed to get Flappers to defeat Snappers, which destroys the game just like how Kit's game was destroyed. Because of this whole thing, Syntax and his people managed to get Kit and Caboodle's identity, and the episode ends with Syntax telling this unnamed character, I think they're unnamed, who was the villain of Kit's world, that they might be able to get revenge on Kit. Anyway, that's it. Roll credits. Just kidding, I've still got more to say, because I think this pilot actually did a really good job at doing exactly what a pilot is supposed to do. A lot of pilots for Glitch shows seem to have an issue in one major area: pacing. Now, this isn't the fault of Glitch Productions themselves because they don't write the shows. I think a lot of people don't realize that Glitch Productions isn't the people writing the shows. Like, way too many people don't realize that. But anyway, it's just because of the writers, because pacing a cartoon is pretty difficult to do, especially if you're time limited, which indie animation does tend to be kind of time limited in a lot of places, and have a lot of lore that you want to communicate to the audience, which, once again, that's something that a lot of writers have, is a lot of lore. However, I think GAMEOVERSE does a really good job at keeping the pacing at a comfortable speed, which is very rare for a lot of pilots, I have to say. There are some occasional moments like the beginning fight scene or the parts explaining the lore of the world that feel a tad quick, but other than those minor instances, I think this pilot is one of the most well-paced out of any of Glitch's other pilots. Not only that, but the art direction is absolutely phenomenal, and no, I'm not just saying that because of the insane amount of fan service that they put into this episode. Believe me, I don't think this show is ever going to catch a break about Kit or misinformation. Listen, I understand, okay? I get it. But seriously, in general, I really like the way the characters are drawn, just in a way that mimics low-poly 3D characters in a 2D medium. At least, I think that's what they were going for. But little details like how Kit's tail clips through the chair sells the style even more for me. I think it's really awesome. I also really like the line art and just like how thick the line art is, and just everything about like the coloring and the animation. The animation is stellar as well. It completely goes without saying that the animation's really good. There's never usually any complaints there when it comes to Glitch's shows about animation quality. Never really anything to complain about there. But I still have to say it regardless so the world knows. The only real complaint that I have, besides the very rare issue of fast pacing, is the fact that some of the dialogue during the more emotional moments doesn't really connect with me as much as it could have. Digital Circus does a bit of a better job at having heartfelt scenes that feel more real, and I think the reason for that is because Digital Circus kind of eased into it more, whereas GAMEOVERSE decided to get right into it during the pilot episode. But I guess because the characters are literally having their worlds destroyed, I don't really know of a better way to handle that. But also about the writing, it was pretty refreshing to hear some occasional swearing as well, because most Glitch shows have a bit of an aversion to cursing, which causes a perception that some of the shows are too kid-friendly, which I don't really agree with that takeaway, but whatever. But like, I will happily accept a well-placed swear word or two to make the world feel more real, if that makes sense. Which I think this does a great job at. I really like how they're placed. I think it really fits well with the dialogue and the character personalities, and it's not used overly, which I know some shows have problems with using swear words too much. But anyway, I can confidently say that this pilot really hooked me in, kind of in a way that Knights of Guinevere or even Gaslight weren't really able to, simply because of the art style, pacing, and cool lore potential, which hopefully I'll have time to make a separate video on. There's a lot of lore, I think. I would honestly put this pilot up there with the pilots of Murder Drones and Digital Digital Circus. I would say it's better than the Digital Circus pilot because it doesn't bore me as much, but not as good as the Murder Drones pilot because I'm not quite as attached to the characters. I think Kit is very likable simply for her kindness and consideration of others. That is very clear just from the little time we got to spend with her, but she can kind of give off the impression of being too nice for some people's liking, which Caboodle kind of talks about at the beginning, and I totally understand some people might be thinking that she's too nice. I get it. Caboodle's pretty cool. Flappers is kind of unintelligent, but he doesn't really know any better and will hopefully wisen up throughout the series, and I really like the villains as well. They feel threatening, but also kind of likable in a sense, like I said earlier with the Team Rocket kind of thing going on between Fold and Misinformation. It really feels like a sibling relationship, I think, even though I don't think that's confirmed or anything. It's very charming, very cool, very cute. I like it. This pilot is definitely going in the good books for me. I really liked it, and I can't wait to see what's to come with Gameoverse. I don't really know when the next episode's gonna come out. We probably shouldn't even be talking about this so early on in the game. Overse. Yeah, I had to throw in one last pun. Sorry about that. I'm gonna go to sleep now, though. Bye-bye.